This Three Beards Media podcast is sponsored by Revelton Distilling Company. When Rob and Chrissy Taylor started following the Kentucky Bourbon Trail in 2012, they fell in love with not only bourbon, but the entire distilling process. Just 8 short years later, in 2020, Revelton Distilling Company was opened, offering an entire family of products including vodka, gin, whiskey, and Revelton Shine. Come visit the tasting room at 1400 West Clay Street in Osceola, Iowa, where you can sample one of their many spirits, including 4 gold medal winners. Can't make it to Osceola today? Not a problem, as you can pick some up at your local Hy-Vee or Fairway grocery stores. Follow Revelton Distilling on Twitter or Instagram at ReveltonDC or their website www.reveltondistilling.com.
This Three Beards Media podcast may contain mature themes, and if you're not down with that, we got 3 words for you. Like the podcast. Nailed it!
Would you like to sample some of my nuts? Good evening and welcome to yet again another edition of Old Man Strength, a podcast of Three Beards Media and brought to you by Revelton Distilling Company. I am Tim Johnson, joined as always by Chris Shipley. Chris, how are we doing this evening?
Do you hear the peace and quiet in my house? All the kids are moved out. It's just me and my wife. It's glorious bliss right now.
Yeah, I was going to say, at some point you might start to miss a little bit of that commotion, a little bit of that noise, but you're still in that phase right now where it's beautiful silence.
Right. It won't take very long, and then I'll start missing everybody. But for now, I'll take what I can get.
I was down in Iowa last week. Last weekend was my parents' 50th wedding anniversary, and my folks have 9 grandkids. So there were 16 people in total in their house. And I asked, should we do this somewhere else? And Mom said, no, I love the chaos and I love the sound of the quiet when everyone leaves. And it absolutely was that, because I was staying at their place and it was an absolute madhouse up until the very end. We spent about 12 hours together, which is about 10 hours more than I would have done, but it was all good. It was a lot of fun.
Well, I'm sure when you become a grandparent, it'll be a lot easier because you can kind of send them off when you're done. You can just have the fun and things like that. So, and I'm sure our guests can tell us all about that. So,
yeah, absolutely. Why don't we go ahead and jump right in? Why don't you go ahead and introduce who our guest is this evening?
Yeah, so we are super excited to have Coach Bill Fennelly, women's Iowa State basketball coach on, and resident Cardinals fan. And grandpa. So Coach Fennelly, thank you so much for taking time to come on Old Man Strength with Tim and I.
Oh, thank you guys for having me. Looking forward to it.
Yeah. So, I got to start off. I got to tell you, I work with one of your former players, Brittany Lang. She told me to tell you hi. She started at the company that I work at about a month ago and sits right next to me. So that's the kind of a small world. So
yeah, athletics does that. Britt's a really, really good person. She came here and had some injuries that probably prevented her from contributing off the court. She became a student coach, got into coaching, and obviously she got smart and got out and got into a different line of work. got out of coaching, before it stressed her out too bad. So, but no, it's great to have her back in Central Iowa and look forward to seeing her at some games.
Yeah, she's apparently recovering from an Achilles injury right now. So apparently after all that time working in an office, she somehow ruined her Achilles. So imagine that.
Well, so speaking of coaching, Coach, you've been with Iowa State now 1995. Is that correct?
Yes, this is my 28th year at Iowa State. Yes.
That is, completely, I mean, at this point, a seemingly unheard of tenure, certainly one of the elder states in the Big 12. What is it about Iowa State that's made you stick around for 28 years?
It's been such a great place in a lot of ways. It started with, I'm originally from Davenport, Iowa. My wife's from Ruthven, Iowa, home of Lauren Meyer. So that's the reason we ended up here in the first place. And it's evolved into a situation where it was a great fit for my family. We moved here. Our boys were 5th and 1st grade. So being in Iowa, raising them here, raising them close to family. I thought the vision of Iowa State when I've been here so long. I was here the last year of the Big 8 was my first year.
Wow.
Gene Smith was our athletic director. Dr. Jiske was our president, and they had a great vision for what they wanted the athletic department to do and be a part of the university in a positive way. And it's just kind of worked out. I've seen a lot of changes, obviously personnel wise and a lot of other things, but it's been a great place to live and to work, and to be able to do it at home and in front of family and friends has been a true blessing.
Yeah, you're on your 3rd athletic director. You're what, 5th president, I think, of your 10 years, something like that. You've seen quite a bit of change over that time. You've definitely been one of the grounding forces, I think, of that athletic department. We've had the pleasure of talking with, Coach McCarney, talking with John Walters, a lot of people very close, and we even talked with Jamie Pollard, and they all kind of bring you up as that one example of what the consistent example of Iowa State athletics over that time.
Yeah, I've been really lucky. Yeah, it's very nice, you guys. I get elder statesman, dean. No one just says you're the old guy. To my face anyway. But TJ, the current men's basketball coach, tells you how old I am. He's my 7th men's basketball coach. And he's married to one of my former players. So that kind of puts it in. But, I think, guys, I've been really lucky, in women's basketball. I've learned to stay in my lane. There's certain things that we can do. There's certain things we can't do. But every men's basketball coach, the football coaches have been so good to me and to our program. It started with Coach McCarney. He was still one of my dearest friends. I text with him all the time. All the coaches. And right now, I honestly believe, and every time you hear a coach say, well, I'm going to tell you something and this is going to be the truth, or honestly, sometimes they don't mean it. But I've never seen us in a better situation from the administration down. Dr. Winterstein, Jamie Pollard, you got Matt Campbell, you got TJ, you got Kevin Dresser, Christy Johnson. I mean, we're really in a good spot. And I think you need the right people that embrace what Iowa State's about. This is a great place, but we have some limitations, and it's not the best place for everyone. So you really have to identify coaches and staffs and the kind of young people you can recruit. And then luckily the fan base is stuck with us in all sports. And hopefully now they're enjoying the success of a lot of sports. And certainly that starts on Saturday again, Saturday afternoon with football starting. It's an exciting time of year to when the fall hits and football Saturdays come. It makes you excited to be on a college campus.
Well, you talk about the resurgence and the athletic department being in the spot that it is, but it feels like that you have gotten a pretty big surgence of success here lately, and the expectations are fairly high for this season. What has kind of helped? It seems like a lot of coaches might start to phase out, but you seem to be as strong as ever. So what do you attribute that to?
Well, I think a couple of things. Number one, my staff's done an amazing job. I've had a staff that's been with me for a while. We have a good mix of experience and youth. And I think the staff's done a good job of identifying the kind of people that fit our university, fit our program. The administration, like I said, has been ultra supportive. And I think there's, you have a great sense of obligation. I always tell Jamie, When I know that I'm done, I'm going to drive I live north Ames, north of Vinker Golf Course. And I tell them, I'm like, I'm going to drive to work. And instead of turning right and coming to Souk up to the office, I'm going to go to the Jake and give you my keys. And he always jokes with me and says, can you at least call me on the way so I'm ready? But it's just, I think, and there's a lot of it too, like recruiting is such a volatile thing. And I'm sure we could sit here and talk all night about it. And some people are recruiting geeks and some people don't care. They just want to see the kind of kids, but our recruiting is done. We've done really well. We've gotten the right kind of kids. And in basketball, you hit on 3 or 4 kids, you can really turn things. And in the women's game, our kids don't go early to the pros. So if you get the right kid, and Ashley Jones and Emily Ryan and Lexi Donarski, they're probably going to be around for a while. So that sets the tone of what's going to go on in your building, and how you want your program to grow.
When you first got here back in 95, Iowa State women's basketball was not necessarily a place known for success. Certainly not in the previous 2 decades before you coming here. Attendance was not, these huge numbers that it is now. And it's an incredible, amazing number, some of the best attendance in the entire country. But you talk about kind of building that program in the last 28 years. I mean, it's a perennial NCAA team, pretty much year in, year out. You've got a squad that's competing. You've done really well. What did it take when you first got here to kind of assess what needed to be done?
Yeah, Tim, that's a great question. I think I'm sitting in my office and I have the very first box score of the very first game we coached here. It's right as I leave my office every day. So I see it every time I leave my office. And at the bottom of the box score, it has attendance and it's 310. And I think that number's accurate because I think my wife and I thanked everyone in person for coming. But I think it was just, I grew up in Eastern Iowa. My father was in local politics. So I think I learned like a grassroots, approach to get them to bring a friend. It's just a whole different thing. And for us, our marketing plan was our kids were 5th and 1st grade. So we did Fellows Elementary School. So hit them. And we hit the retirement communities. So our fan base was people that were really jacked up at 6:30 and people that were ready to go to sleep. So we had to figure out how to do that. And I think the other thing, and it goes back to what you guys started with, is it really started with the Dan McCarney, Coach Floyd, who was our men's coach at the time, who really helped, when they said things, it gave us a little bit of credibility. And we live in a state of Iowa that has always had a lot of affinity for girls' high school sports. I think we just had like our 95th girls' state basketball tournament. So it wasn't something that was completely out of the box. And for us, when I first got here, people love basketball. Iowa State basketball. I was not here with Coach Orr, not quite that old. But that's kind of how it got started, and you just kind of grew it one day at a time, one fan at a time, and to the point now where we've got a real consistent thing going, and we've been in the top 5 in the country, I think 15 years in a row, something like that. So it's been a lot of fun,
Some people have said that as long as you've been coaching and so on, you've seen so much, almost 20, 25 years. Have those kids changed over time, or have you had to adapt, or is it basically fundamentally the same thing? You're looking at those kids and teaching them the same way.
That's a great question. That could probably take all night and a couple stronger beverages than I have in my hand right now. But,
I mean, we can hook you up with some Revelton, and
that's a good thing. Especially once the season starts, I'm going to need some. But
we'll get your address later, Coach. I'll send you a bottle.
There you go. Kids are different. Obviously, the world's different. Social media has completely changed a lot of things. Your approach has got to be different. Obviously, but you still want to go back to the foundation of what made you successful. There are certain things that you expect of your players. I'm not someone who thinks old school is necessarily bad school. I think there are some things that, accountability, responsibility, discipline, some of those things I think kids really want and need, but you need to be consistent. You need to be fair. I do think, guys, one of the things that has changed is the modern day player, I think, really wants to know why you're doing something. Players that, when I first started here, they'd be upset. They'd do whatever you said. They'd go back to their dorm or apartment and complain and, stress out. But now it's like, okay, this is why we're doing it. There's a method to this. And I think they want to see why you're doing it. All this talk about culture and trust the process and all these things, young people really want to know. And they're starting, with the AAU stuff. And there's a lot of noise that they're hearing through the recruiting process. But at the end of the day, it's still fun. You have to have a foundational belief in anything you do in life. And you got to try and find those kind of kids that embrace that. And they're harder to find. But you just got to do the work and do the due diligence. And the ones that stick out really stick out, and you're blessed to have them.
Go ahead, Chris. Tim. No, you mentioned AAU. I've always wondered, the kids get a lot more playing time. They get a lot more exposure, but then I think there's some bad things to the side of AAU as well. Do you think that's detrimental or helpful overall for those kids?
I think it's for me, it's usually about the kid. Some kids, I think you really benefit from it. You're right. There's the exposure piece. There's a high level of competition. I think that in some cases they're a little more ready to come to college than if they're playing in a high school that, isn't very good, or they're the star or whatever. But I do think the thing that I get concerned about is they play too much. They play. Some of these AU teams play and practice more than we do. And I think that you worry about burnout. At what point do they just say, whether it's a mental thing, where they just, I'm done with it physically. And I'm someone that I've always liked kids that play a lot of sports. I'm not a specializer. Like my grandson Will's 8, and we always talk, give him a ball and let him play. He plays football, he plays basketball, he plays baseball, he plays golf. And I think that's a good thing. And I think that's one of the things that has probably created some angst with the AAU stuff, is the idea that, you're 10 or 11 and you got to decide what sport you're going to play. And the number of kids that go on to play in college is minimal. The number of kids that go become a pro is infinitesimally small. So I just worry about that. And I think that hopefully young people and their parents can make decisions as best for their family. But I do worry about the overuse and maybe some of the things they're missing with their friends in high school. That, go play another sport, go play volleyball, go do something else and be a part of the fabric of your school. Don't get too consumed about what's next.
Yeah, I think that's a big thing that we've heard from a few other athletes that we've talked to. When we had Marcus Pfizer on, he talked about how his first love was actually football. And, eventually he did specialize, and he was, traveling teams and all of that. But I think some of those players wish they would have done even more. It's kind of a regret. And I think some of them even brought up the point that if you're just focused on the same sport, your injury risk seems to go up tremendously because you're not exercising your body in different ways. You're just punishing it in the exact same way over and over and over again.
Yeah, no, that's true. And actually, I have an article that's sitting on my desk. James Andrews, the famous orthopedic surgeon, just wrote an article that he thinks young people should literally take 2 months off. And during that time, if you're a basketball player, you shouldn't be shooting, lifting. It should be flexibility, things that allow your body, to heal and to build, as you mentioned, other body parts. But that's right now, that just doesn't happen. I think it's hard for people to put their mind around that, but hopefully as we all learn, some of that stuff will get better.
Yeah, for sure. What, you talked about fall season coming up, basketball starts mid-November, but you guys start practicing before that. What's your summers look like for preparation? And then what's your summer look like for non-coach Bill Fennelly, and what are you doing there?
Yeah, summertime for us is our kids are usually done early May. That's probably from a coaching standpoint, even though the transfer portal's kind of changed that. That used to be the slow time. And then we do a lot of the cyclone tailgate tours and things like that. July is recruiting time. We're on the road a lot in July. Our kids are usually here mid-June to early August for summer workouts. And then, they'll get a break in August, and then we're right back at it. So there's limitations on how many hours we get in a week. Our strength coach gets so many. We probably don't do as much as a lot of people in the summer. It's a long season, and we have very highly self-motivated kids, so they're going to do it on their own anyway. But that's kind of, our summer. And then once the fall starts, again, ease into it. And then we'll start official practice September 26th and open the season November 7th.
So with everything kicking off this weekend, I'm sure, even though you don't have that going on, just with the football game this weekend, I'm sure the athletic department is quite a buzz right now. Your fellow former Toledo coach actually is probably quite busy. What is the energy like right now? Students back on campus, you said, but it's got to be just insane now.
Yeah, it's crazy. And I think it really is one of the most exciting times of the year. The weather's great, football starting, the energy in Ames. I'm one of those people that, there's people that I know, friends of mine. Oh, the students are back. It takes us now 12 minutes to drive across now instead of 7.5 minutes. But I love it. I love the energy and the athletic department. I mean, we've started, with track and soccer and volleyball, and certainly, with football starting, everyone's really excited. Coach Campbell's created a program that brings a lot of energy, a lot of enthusiasm, and a lot of notoriety to our university. I mean, you have 60,000 eyeballs in the stands and get on TV and all those kinds of things. So it's a lot of fun. I love football. I've missed one home game since I've been at Iowa State, and that's when one of my former assistants, so I almost fired her on the day, got married during the football season. She almost lost her job, but
I know. Whenever I have a friend from Iowa State that gets married, I had a friend get married on the day of the Iowa State game.
Oh no!
And I thought, I was like, I can't believe.
Yeah, you got everyone sitting in the church with their phones.
Exactly, that's what I was gonna say. You saw the glow of a bunch of phones.
And then you got all the guys in one corner finding the one little TV that everyone's watching. Oh yeah, I've been there. Not any fun. Not any fun.
Have you walked across the new bridge yet, Coach?
I have not.
That's the big thing around here now.
That is our if they build it, you will come, right?
Right.
Actually, Friday night, we moved all the RV people over there. It's going to be really cool, I think. So Jamie and TJ and I are going to drive around Friday, greet the people, thank them for coming, and then I'll get to walk the bridge for the first time. But it's really cool. I think it speaks to the vision that Jamie has. One of the things that Jamie always told us was, we can't change the weather. We can't change the demographics, population. So what do we change? And one of the things you change is facilities and infrastructure. And if you look at all the stuff that's happened, we used to practice in State Gym and the Forker building, and
I remember that.
And now you have facilities, and I think it's not just for the athletic department. It's going to be a great way for people to enter our university, our community. It's going to be the start of a lot of other great things that are happening. So it's kind of funny how it's created its life of itself, and the bridge kind of thing. And but I think that's what makes it fun. And I hope that the people in the RV lots really embrace it, enjoy it. I think it's functional. It's going to add some safety. It's going to add a great way to enter the university. Again, it's the start of a lot of great things that I think the administration and university have planned for other ideas. So it's going to be fun. I'm looking forward to actually seeing it in operation with all the activity on Friday and Saturday.
Yeah, that'll be neat. I mean, the facilities are just crazy. I mean, I went there when they opened up the rec center. I think I was a sophomore when they opened up the rec center, and I thought that was pretty damn fancy at the time. So, and now that's probably third tier at this point.
Yeah, it doesn't get used a whole lot, and but yeah, that's the thing. It's an arms race kind of thing. And when we talk about recruiting, you kids want to see there is a wow factor involved in, and not just recruiting athletes, but recruiting students, recruiting doctors, and high level professionals who want to come to Ames and stay in Ames. To make our community better, to make it a better place to live and work and play. So it all goes together. It's not just about 7 Saturdays at the football stadium. It's a lot of work, and a lot of things have to be done. And luckily, I think we have an AD and a president that have a vision, and they're looking forward to trying some things. And I think it's going to be really cool.
Yeah, I mean, there's been, you mentioned the wow factor, you mentioned State Gym. I think that had a wow factor, but it wasn't the positive wow. I remember playing basketball there on Sundays in college. I can't believe you girls didn't roll more ankles in practice.
Yeah, we'd have people jogging up above, and then it'd be cold, and we'd be practicing in sweatshirts, and the windows didn't close, and we didn't have a locker room, and I sound like my dad. Walked uphill to school, 3 miles both ways. And my dad lived across the street from where he went to school. But it's a great story, and it shows the things that have had to be done to be successful. And fortunately, we've done a lot of those things.
Yeah, I live up here in Minneapolis, and I can tell you the University of Minnesota, it's taken them a long time to understand the importance of facilities. I used to work with a guy that had just got done being the manager of the men's basketball team, and he used to get called in because guys were trying to shoot hoops in the dark because no one was there to even get lights on for them. And that wasn't that long ago. So I think it speaks volumes that a place like Ames, Iowa is spending so much time to try to get that and isn't overlooking it like some of these other big time programs are.
Yeah, no, we've been very lucky. And like I said, I think that when you have certain limitations, we are in central Iowa, and there's not some of the amenities. So you got to figure it out and provide. If you think you're just going to say, we got a football game at 1:00 Saturday, we'll see you there, it doesn't work. I mean, people want to be entertained. They want to be entertained from start to finish, from the time they came to the game, to the tailgating, to the game, what happens between the quarters, what happens at halftime. after the game, access, how do I get in and out of the parking lots, and the logistics of it is way above my pay grade. I know that, but it's just something that you like, we've added, the suites, and we added Johnny's at Hilton, and that you have to do these kinds of things. Otherwise, why wouldn't you just sit your butt on the couch and get some good Revelton and have 2 TVs going and
That's
watch
a promo.
games?
We'll cut that out. Well, that's a promo, Coach.
So it's like, where do you do that? And luckily we just keep looking at ways to get that done, because for us, that has been the key thing, is what Jamie and the university has done from a facilities and game day experience for the people who show up and pay really good money to come watch these kids play.
I think it's a testament to the fan base too, in that it really is 50-50. There's been a lot of times where the fan bases have shown up and supported teams that were struggling or whatever, in anticipation of being rewarded down the road for, great seasons and great memories, whether it's, football, basketball, women's basketball, or what have you. I mean, I can be honest with you that I went to Iowa State from 1989 to 94, 5, something. It was a lot. It was more than the average, Coach. We'll just put it that way. But I couldn't even tell you who the women's basketball coach was before you. It was never on my radar. And probably in the last 4 or 5 years is when I've really started to watch and sit down and watch games. I've paid attention and watched highlights and watched tournament games or whatever. But I find myself now sitting and watching regular season women's basketball games because it's that exciting, and those kids have me that engaged.
Yeah, and you're right. I think that's a great point about the fan base, because I think, it's such a unique fan base. I think that the emotional attachment they have to our teams is unique. And you're right. There's a lot of times people showed up and our teams weren't very good, but they showed up and they didn't, eat their own and try and get coaches fired and boo the players and quit showing up. I mean, they just said, hey, we're here with you and we're going to celebrate when this thing gets turned. And I think you've seen that in a lot of our sports, and certainly, excuse me, what Matt's done in football has been the thing that everyone notices the most. And I think he's only been here 6-7 years, and, we're selling out and we're good at home. And I think before he got here, we were in the upper 30,000 range, and now we're going to be, 60 plus again. So it's been something. And I will tell you guys, the coaches do not take that for granted. The players don't. But I think there is an obligation we all feel to say, hey, we owe the fans. We do. And we talk about it all the time with our players, that you have the most unique fan base in the country. And the best way to show your appreciation, go out, compete, play right, play hard, and give them something to cheer about, and get them back in their car and have them smiling when they drive home.
So I want to switch gears here just a little bit. This is Old Man Strength. Chris and I talk a lot about family. You mentioned your family, but you've got some coaches that you raised there too. What was it like seeing them follow in your footsteps and even get to coach alongside your son? Yeah,
we have 2 sons. Billy is Iowa State graduate, got his master's from Iowa State. I knew all along he wanted to be a coach. He was with me all the time. I joke, he learned to count on a scoreboard. And he learned to count by 3s. He tells people that. But it was just, it's just something that was in his blood. And he left here and he worked for Brenda Fries at Maryland. He worked for Joe McCune at Northwestern. So he got great experience. And then we were lucky enough to have him back here. He coordinates our recruiting, and I think he's done a phenomenal job. He's married to Lindsay Metters Fennelly, one of my former players. And then our other son, Steven, had been coaching, was at Cal State Fullerton, Idaho, had a great experience at Northern Iowa, and just got out of the profession, and now he's in the corporate world. I really thought they were smarter than that. And I did not tell them they couldn't be coaches. I tried to tell them that maybe it wasn't the best career choice, but they love it. And having Billy here has been fun. Because we all have, whatever jobs we have, we miss stuff with our families that you can't get back. And as a coach, there's things I missed, and it bothers me a lot. But I can't get him back, but I get to see him every day. And Stephen just moved to Ankeny. So we're lucky. We have 4 grandkids, and 2 live in Ames and 2 live in Ankeny. So we're really lucky that our family is still connected, and it's been a lot of fun.
Well, Coach, I worked for years with my dad, and wouldn't trade it for the world. A lot of good experiences, but I would be remiss if I didn't say that there was a lot of times that Dad and I didn't butt heads over ideas or strategies or whatever. So you can be honest. You typically overrule him, right? Because you're the boss. That's at least that's the term that I always got.
Yeah.
When I was working with my dad was, well, that's a nice idea, but we're going to do it my way.
Yeah. Usually what happens in my family is we disagree, not a lot, but more than probably we should. And then Mom breaks the tie.
That's what I was just about to ask, is how many times?
She's the boss. The first lady usually is the tiebreaker. And I usually don't get that one.
You usually don't get that one? No.
Yeah, not usually, no.
Yeah, I wondered, if I were Billy, I think I'd use the thread I'm telling Mom probably more often than
a lot of text messages between him and Mom.
So what has been her opinion of watching her sons get into coaching?
I think she likes it. I think she likes it. I think she likes it's provided a really good situation for us. You're exposed to a lot of really good people. You have some phenomenal life experiences. I do think she's happy that both the boys, at least the last 5-6 years, were close to home. Like when Stephen was in Idaho, she didn't like it a whole lot. But I think she enjoyed it. And sports is such a big part of our life, not just basketball. It's just kind of what we've all done. And it's kind of bonded our family in a very unique and special way. And it's been a lot of fun.
And you've got to be able to be close to the grandkids and things like that too. I know you've talked quite a bit about that, but that's got to be nice too, to be able to be so close to them, especially now that Stephen's moved to Ankeny and is close by. Yeah,
no, it's cool. I mean, and we're so lucky, guys, because I talk to friends of mine that, I see my grandkids at Christmas, or they live in Portland, or they live in Washington, D.C. I mean, literally, there isn't a day that goes by that we don't see one, if not all 4 of them. And we don't take that for granted. And now it's fun because they're growing up and they're into all their activities and sports. And my granddaughter Callie's into dance. I'm still trying to figure that one out. The whole dance thing, I don't get much, but it's fun, and it's kind of what we do, and they're real involved in. If you come to one of our practices, you're going to see my grandkids. You're going to see my ops coach Carp. He's got 2 kids. My strength coach has 1. We got little guys running around everywhere. So it's just what we're about, and it makes it a lot of fun. And I think it's really good too, guys, that my grandkids are around our players. They get to see very mature, motivated, smart, talented, young college athletes. And I think that's a good thing. And for my boys, it was really good because we didn't have daughters, but they could see very successful females. So it was a really good thing. And we've been really, really lucky. And It's been a fun ride, and we're just so lucky we got to do it in this state and in Ames. And I think because, you know, we've lost three of our four grandparents. I lost my father, and my wife lost both their parents, but we had a good run with them, and our kids got to be around them, their aunts, their uncles. And those are things that, I know it sounds corny, whatever, but it's a big deal to us. And it's probably what's rooted us in Ames for 28 years.
Well, Coach, we got to take a break here, get a word from our sponsor. But when we come back, I want to chat a little bit about your road up to becoming a coach. You're growing up in Eastern Iowa. Learn a little bit more about that, because I think that probably informs a lot of who you are today, for sure. So we're going to go ahead and get a quick word from Revelton Distilling Company. Please, once again, go ahead and check them out at 1400 West Clay Street in Osceola, Iowa, and we will be back here in a second.
Summer is winding down and fall is just around the corner. August can be a busy time getting ready for upcoming fall events, but be sure to take those final summer Saturdays and treat yourself to an evening of music and spirits by visiting Revelton Distilling Company at 1400 West Clay Street in Osceola, Iowa. They have a lineup of talented musicians each Saturday evening from 4 to 7 p.m. to help you enjoy those final summer days. Along with that, take time to sample some of their great spirits like their honey whiskey or their award-winning mulberry gin. Try one of their signature drinks like their blackberry bramble while you are there. Check out their schedule for music guests on their Instagram page or Twitter account at ReveltonDC. Finally, be sure to join in celebrating with all the crew from Three Beards Media, along with cast members from Bitter Units, Old Man Strength, and WS Twin Warriors for their official launch party on Friday, September 2nd at 6:30 p.m. at Revelton's Tasting Room.
Once again, we are joined with Iowa State women's head basketball coach, Bill Fennelly. Coach, for the break, I teased a little bit. I wanted to learn a little bit more about, you know, what got you to where you are growing up in Eastern Iowa, Davenport, you said, right?
Yes, sir.
Excellent. I'm from Eastern Iowa, kind of halfway between Davenport and that other city to the west of there we're not going to name. About halfway in between. But I understand kind of what that part of the state and just kind of the ethos. You mentioned your dad was in politics. What do you think kind of that part, you know, contributed to what you love doing?
Yeah, when I grew up in Eastern Iowa. I'm the oldest of four kids, and my dad ran a gas station his whole life. Hard work, no excuse, sick, whatever. You go do your job, you serve people, you provide something that they need. And then he got into local politics, which he really enjoyed. He liked that part of it. So I think, you know, what we learned as kids was, you know, you show up, you do an honest day's work, you're appreciative of people, you try and help people, but you do something that you're passionate about. And, you know, I'm the only child in my family who went to college. Both my brothers and my sister are ultra successful in their own ventures. But I went to college, and I thought I was going to be a lawyer. That was my deal. And I got out of college and literally was on my way to law school. And I called my dad and I said, "Dad, I'm not going." And that was the reaction I got, dead silent. and he goes, "Well, what are you going to do?" And I said, "I'm going to be a basketball coach." And as God is my witness, he said, "So you're going to put your paycheck in the mouth of an 18-year-old kid?" And I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "You better be damn good at it." And that's what he said. And it just kind of grew from there. He and my mom were phenomenal parents, just truly blessed, and love sports, love competition. You know, I was a very average athlete, but loved to compete. And I was surrounded by a lot of good people. So It was fun to grow up in there in Eastern Iowa and, have the toughness of a little river rat in me. And it was a great place to grow up.
So instead of arguing cases in front of a judge, you're just arguing calls in front of a ref.
Yes. Yeah.
and
probably not good at either one of them.
I was just going to say, you're probably not getting the calls then now.
It hadn't gone really well. So I'm a little more calm than I used to be with the officials, but sometimes my Irish temper got the best of me, but I'm better now than I used to be.
Well, I still think based off of some of the coaches we've had in various sports over the years, your temper is pretty mild by comparison.
Yeah, I've seen a few that it gets a little.
Yeah, it's not Larry Eustace level at all.
No, not like Coach. He was wound up pretty tight most of the time, and that's probably why he was so good. But he got after it. Yeah, he did.
This is kind of where the podcast kind of go off crazy. Is we do certain things happen during the day, and it makes me think of questions. And I'll my daughter Caitlin graduated from Iowa State. She just started her teaching career this week, and we had a conversation today. And
where's she teaching?
First grade. So
where at?
Yeah, in Des Moines at Oak Park Elementary School.
Good. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Ashley Jones is doing her student teaching right now. So
oh yeah,
she wants to be in elementary school. That we need them. So tell your daughter thank you.
I
have grandkids. Thank you.
Right.
We need young people that want to stick their nose in there and teach those young people.
She's always been the model kid, and I've never had to worry about her. And we had a conversation today about how much of a detriment that was for her sometimes, because she always sometimes felt like, well, I was always doing what the right thing was, and you never checked on me. And she doesn't say it badly. She's just saying, I sometimes feel like I put so much pressure on myself to be the perfect kid. And everything she said to me resonated with me, and how my dad was the same way with me. My dad would always, he'd always know, I know you're going to do the right thing. And I know that you're on top of things. So I'm not going to worry about you because I've got the other kids I have to worry about, and so on and so on. And I wonder if you find yourself doing that sometimes too, where you see a lot of yourself in your boys, or vice versa, and how you maybe curb that or help that along.
No, that's a great question. I was the same way. I'm the oldest of four, and my siblings, everyone joked, I never got in trouble. And I didn't. I
right.
just,
for me, Coach, it was never worth the risk.
I was the oldest, and I didn't want my dad mad at me or disappointed in me.
Yes.
I mean, I got good grades, and I showed up on time, and I was that kid. And I did. Like your dog, I felt a little bit of, I don't know, because I was first, and I setting the example for my little brothers and sister. But I think when you see kids come to college, it is interesting, because we have kids that have parents that were ultra strict, and they get to college and they get a little freedom. And it's like, whoa, you don't have to do everything the first weekend you're in college. And then you have other kids that it's been a very loose environment, and they need the structure. So yeah, we see it. We talk about it a lot. There's a balance, I think, that you go through to not overwhelm them and suffocate them. And, they need to learn, they need to grow, they need to make mistakes. And I tell our kids all the time, I'm like, you guys, I'm probably the dumbest person in the building, but I'm the oldest. And I have some life experiences, and we're really big here on choices. Life is about the choices that we make, and why do we make them? When did we make them? What's the result? What was that about? And, we all make mistakes and things don't go right, but we do spend a lot of time. And I think our staff does as well, with just trying to connect with kids. You try and learn as much as you can through the recruiting process, but every kid's different when they come to college. And that's the big piece of it, is how do they adjust to the freedom? that they have and the pressure they have as a scholarship student athlete at a fairly high profile program.
Yeah.
So if we were to talk to some of your former players, how do you think they would describe you?
I think they would probably say I was very intense. I did not put up with anything but people's best effort. I think they'll say I was fair. And I think they would say I loved everything about the job, and hopefully they feel like when they are moms and business people and whatever, that they could always come to me now and I'd help them out. But, I think every kid views it differently. I've had kids that handled tough coaching really, really well. And I had kids that, didn't. And so you just have to learn that over time. But I think they would say for the most part, he was fair and he cared about me, not just as a basketball player, but as a human being. And hopefully that's the case.
Yeah. I mean, having in-laws is intimidating enough, but having that be, your old basketball coach, I think, has to be a whole other level. I'm sure. I'm sure, but I think that speaks volumes that Lindsay did not run away at all.
Yeah.
So
yeah, Billy's happy about that. So
excellent. Well, Chris, if you don't mind, I want to kind of talk about this upcoming season. We kind of teased it at the beginning.
Absolutely.
Chris mentioned, I think certainly some pretty big expectations, certainly a lot of success last year, a lot of fun to watch, a ton of talent, a ton of returning talents. What can we look forward to this year?
No, we do have a very talented team. And I would say we are more talented than we were last year. We've added some key pieces. Our best 3 players are back. We do have a really tough schedule, so we'll be tested really early. We did that on purpose. Most of those games, we have 5 games in the preseason that are really, really hard games. They're on the road, and we did that by design. We want to challenge our kids. But the one thing I told our players is it's not like a light switch. We can't just say, hey, we were good at the end of last year and it continues. You see it all the time in sports. You got to keep doing the work. I read a really good article by John Feinstein, very good writer, writes a lot about college sports. And he said, to be honest, my first best-selling book was really easy. After that, it got hard because every book needs to be a bestseller. Every book needs to be better than the one before. And so I think that what we're doing this year is let them embrace it. The pressure on the outside is real. It's a good thing. But our job is to do what we control inside the building and with ourselves. And I would say we're going to be a better team. I don't know that our record will be as good, but I think we do have a chance to be a really good team. It'll be a fun team to watch. And it's a team that's very, very connected. So I'm anxious to get it going and see, kind of see what we can do. And hopefully, we stay healthy. Everyone talks about that. You got to stay healthy. But other than that, we have no excuses on why we can't do some really special things.
Well, a lot of people are talking about expectations or whatever. Do you talk about those to your team, or do you not talk about those things? I was always been curious of whether or not you embrace that, or do you maybe try to keep it off to the side and keep them focused just on a regular season?
We talk about it. We talked about it at our very first meeting. Our kids are smart. They read Twitter. They're on Instagram. They're on TikTok. They're on whatever was invented today that I don't know about yet. So there's no reason to try and hide it. Now, we're not consumed by it. But I mean, and I tell them, like, the The alternative is people think you're going to stink, and that's not good. So let's embrace it. Let's go play. And we should be. I mean, we have our 3 best players back, and we've added, some really good players. And so I think our kids are mature enough. Now, we have had teams in the past that maybe we would have tried to deflect it because I didn't think they could. They didn't have the mental maturity. Probably this group does to a very high level. So we don't shy away from it. It's not like, we talk about it every single day, but the expectations are there. They know it. And I think they've embraced it, and they're excited about, what we need to do to fulfill those.
I appreciate you saying that about how different teams kind of have a different personality. I think one of the tricks of being a leader, whether that's a manager or a coach, is finding your balance between being consistent and still treating teams or individuals as individuals, and finding what works over here doesn't work over here, or what did work doesn't work over here, but still make sure that expectations are consistent and clear. And I think sometimes that balance can be tricky. So, what does that process look like for you to kind of figure out that team's personality?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. Cause you're right. I mean, what I tell our group is, a team is not a bunch of people that show up at the same time wearing the same color shirt. That's not a team. So what we try and do is, what am I doing to help the group? How do I make things better? And then as coaching staff, you're always trying to identify the kids that need, a text message after practice that, hey, I know you didn't go well today. Tomorrow will be better. We're good. We got your back. Don't worry about it. We got other kids that you can challenge them a little bit because they want to be challenged. Especially early in the year, my big thing is you guys play and I'll worry. That's what I tell them. I worry better than that might be my number one skill set. I worry about everything. So I just say, let's go play. Let's figure it out, show up, be enthusiastic, show some effort. You control that. Don't make excuses for stuff. But go about your business the right way. And then we identify individual people. I have a lot of individual meetings. And then you really do get the pulse of your kids. And I think that just takes time. And it's not the same. And every kid's not the same every year. I mean, kids grow too. So like things that we did with Emily Ryan as a freshman, you can't do or want to do or can do with Emily Ryan as a junior. And then you see them as seniors and they're like, now they're experienced, but do they have one foot out the door because they're going to go get a job and go do whatever. So you got to manage the personalities. But Fred Hoiberg told me one time when he was with the Bulls, and obviously it's professional. And now with NIL, I guess we're turning sort of professional. It's like coaching 12 corporations at the same time. And each one of them is a little bit different. And they all want their own thing, but how does your own thing translate to success of the group? And when the group is successful, then your little corporation is going to be better. So there's a lot of give and take, and hopefully you find the right kind of kids that embrace that.
So, I mean, you mentioned NIL, you mentioned Twitter, you mentioned text messaging. You've seen a lot of changes happen over your 28 years at Iowa State. What do you think is maybe the biggest change you've seen in regards to college athletics and specifically women's basketball?
I don't think it's any question. It's the social media component and the things that young people are exposed to, and especially young, not especially, but to a larger percentage, young females. I mean, most universities, we have a full-time mental health person on our athletic department staff. That's where we've gotten to. People are viewed like, how many likes did I get? How many, and that's a real thing. It's not made up. I think I've had players that were really good players for me that will tell you that if Twitter existed when they played, they never would have made it. And I think some of the stuff, the Twitter stuff that it becomes an issue is when it gets personal.
Right.
That's a problem. If it's like, I don't like that you called this play or whatever, or, but when it gets personal, I think young people really struggle with that, and they should. But there's no question that talk radio, podcasts, like there's so much information and there's so many opinions that young people have to decipher. And it's a big deal now. And I can't, football, men's basketball is 10 times what our kids go through. But it's real. And we try and deal with it head on. We bring people in to talk to our team about using it and how you manage social media. It can be a huge benefit for you, but you got to do it right.
Well, Coach, we do have every week a sponsored question brought to you by Kyle Lehman and Wintrust Mortgage, one of our sponsors. So, Chris, why don't you go ahead and ask our sponsored question for the week?
Are you in the market for a new house and unsure of the mortgage process? Want to know that you have someone looking out for you? Kyle Lehman from Wintrust Mortgage is a down-to-earth, knowledgeable lender who can be there for you in your corner. He can work with you in any of the 50 states and is just what you need to expand your home search. Kyle will work with you through the entire process with little to no work from you. Take the worry of the mortgage process out of the equation so that you can focus on looking for your dream home. Contact Kyle at www.wintrust.com/Kyle-Lehman or call him at 515-473-0546.
Okay. This is usually kind of a stumper for some people, but I think you'll pass just fine, Coach. You've seen a lot. We've talked a lot about what's changed or whatever, but 2022 Bill Fennelly, he goes back in time and can talk to 2012 Bill Fennelly, maybe even 2002, since you've been there so long. What piece of advice would you go back and whether it's professional, personal, what piece of advice would you go back and give yourself 10, 15 years ago?
I would say probably for me, it was enjoy it more. Embrace the good stuff. Don't worry about the negative stuff that people may say or do. When I was growing up, the wins were fine. The losses killed me. That was a big thing that I needed to get over. I think, that part of it. And I think the other thing would be probably making sure that you did even more with your family as far as, I think I made a lot of excuses for, I'm just busy. I got to work. I got to recruit. I got to, and I think that stuff, I did work hard. I still do work hard. I'm proud of that. But I do think my balance was not what it should have been. I'm lucky that my wife is who she is, best recruiter I ever got. And I cheated to get her. I did. I paid for stuff. I did whatever I could. And being a coach's significant other, you're on the fast path to heaven, man. I'm telling you. But she hung in there and did some things that a lot of people wouldn't do. And we just had our 40th wedding anniversary, but I've been really lucky. People always say, do you play the lottery? Do you whatever? I'm like, I hit the lottery with my job, my family, where I work, where I live. So, but I do think I didn't enjoy it probably because now people are always like, you still have, my wife says, do you still have fun? Do you like it? And I do think that's something that I would tell my younger self. I don't think I probably would have listened, but as stubborn as I was, but
so you're just like every other young kid. You won't listen to the.
And I would say, Chris, the other thing was I would say, and I'm much better now. Delegate, like let people that you work with do their jobs. Don't micromanage it. I'm so much better at that now than I used to be, but and I think that was not a good thing. I would definitely err on that side too.
So is Billy listening to this and saying finally, or is he saying
yeah exactly what he's saying? Yeah, I'll be tomorrow I'm probably gonna get a text message here in about 2 minutes. Like, where did this come from? What? It'll come up in his staff meeting tomorrow. My whole staff will be like, what's going on?
I love it. Well, Coach, we don't want to take up too much more of your time. You are certainly
great. Thank you.
A busy man. We do hope that we, get a chance to see you around the tailgate lots and
look forward to it, please.
Yeah,
we're in the cheap lots. Clear, we're in the public lots. So I tried to finagle a good spot out of Jamie when he was on, but he didn't want to give me one. Actually, I just wanted a direct link to buy one online, so I didn't have to wait online.
Yeah,
that's all I wanted.
I tell you, that was the one thing I remember when Gene Smith was my AD. He's now at Ohio State. Mm-hmm. He's the guy that hired me. He said, you're doing well when the complaints and the calls you get are about parking.
Yes.
He says, you're heading in the right direction when people are bitching and complaining or want parking. So
there you go.
Hopefully we're at that stage, man.
Absolutely.
Excellent.
Sure.
Well, thank Coach, you guys.
Yeah, we look forward to this coming basketball season, and we wish you nothing but great success.
Thank you. Appreciate your time. Go Cyclones.
Appreciate yours. Go Cyclones. Thanks, Coach.
Thanks, Coach. Well, Chris, that was pretty fantastic. I think that was probably just about everything that I expected. But more than I could have asked for, honestly.
He's got more energy than most guys we've met or talked to. I mean, that was great. He very passionate, and you can see, his renewed, just the basketball team where it's at is, I think, has him like a fountain of youth, to be honest with you.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's fun to see. Again, 3 athletic directors, probably 5 presidents, 7 men's basketball coaches, and he's gone through it all. He's seen just about every change you could possibly think of, and he's still Coach Fennelly, right? I mean, he is, like I said, from what anyone has ever told me, that's kind of what I expected from him. So very grateful that he could come on.
Yeah, and very accommodating. I mean, he emailed me back within probably 5 minutes and said, tell me when. So, and when you get compliments about him, like from Coach McCarney, who said, the only statue that should be built any time further should be of Coach Fennelly.
Oh yeah.
And then Jamie talks about how, he's told him several times that if he retires, he needs to let him know ahead of time so that Jamie can retire first, because he doesn't want to have to be the one that has to replace Coach Fennelly. I mean, those are 2 pretty big, strong statements.
They absolutely are. I think neither of us have been shy about our praise of what he has meant to Iowa State athletics. And I think, I don't think there's a coach there that wouldn't tell you his importance there. Well, and I say elder statesman, like he said, it sounds like it's code for old, but to me, what that really means is he's a consistent presence in that athletic department. And I think everyone, when they're looking for guidance, he's probably one of the first people they go to.
As he should be.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, folks, we want to thank you for listening to another episode of Old Man Strength. We have some really exciting things going on at Three Beards Media, some brand new podcasts. If you have not yet listened to Fill in the Blank Pod with Anya,
so good.
A friend of mine, Anya, decided that she has some things that she needs to talk about, and she's not shy on opinions, but she is a lot more eloquent with their words than I think either Chris or I. So please go ahead and take a look. She'll cover a little anything from pop culture to sports to complaining about Gonzaga. Well, she won't. She doesn't ever complain. They do no wrong. We also have the Sigh of the Storm. Is that what it's called here, Chris?
That's right. Sigh of the Storm. George Trice, Marcus Pfizer, Brent Gervais. They just launched their first teaser episode this week, and that'll be a weekly podcast. So, and they are hilarious.
The teaser was fantastic. Those guys, yeah. I anytime you get Gervais going, that guy's got such a great sense of humor and one of the best laughs. But yeah, that's going to be a Cyclone Sports reaction and preview show. They've mentioned, certainly with big play and with what did he want to be called? Pfizer the Energizer.
Pfizer the Energizer. That's right.
There you go, Marcus. I'm going to make it a thing one way or another.
Here's the thing is I was pretty sure Marcus was just going to do basketball, but I think he's going to be in on the football as well.
He absolutely
is going to be. So
yeah, I think that's great. I think that'll be a good perspective. And they said, they're going to try to start getting in some other former athletes. They're certainly a lot more connected to other athletes than we are. So
that's right.
Please go ahead and take a listen on that one, as well as Better Units and, some more things in the works. Chris, anything else you want to tell our listeners about?
Just go check out Revelton Distilling Company down in Osceola. We're going to have that launch party this Friday. So hopefully this will be out before then. So if you hear it before this Friday and you want to join us down in Osceola, 1400 West Clay Street, it'll be at 6:30 p.m. Otherwise, Kyle is doing phenomenal jobs. He can now do commercial property mortgages as well. So look up Kyle Lehman at Wintrust Mortgage as well. So investment properties as well. So.
Yep. And I did just buy a car this evening. So
look at you.
So assuming that I did not buy a lemon, I should be down in Osceola on Friday. So very excited about that. It's been a 2-week, 3-week process.
I'm just excited to make fun of Aaron in person.
It is a whole lot better. So please go ahead and check us out. Listeners, we thank you so much. More things to come. So stick with us. But this has been Old Man Strength, and we will see you guys next time.